name is Victor Franco. I'm a member of the R2 Builders Club. The other panelists introduce themselves in a few minutes. But first I'm going to tell you a little bit about the club, and we'll also take a lot of questions and answers. I promise you this hour will go by very fast, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So before I go forward, let me go ahead and have the panelists introduce themselves. Guys, tell us not only your names, but what you do for a living, the droids you built, if you've built more than one, and I know some of you guys have even built droids outside of the Star Wars universe, so please go ahead and just give yourselves a quick intro.
I don't know, last part Victor said outside of Star Wars universe, and we're not even discussing those today.
Well, maybe a little.
I'm just warning you right now. My name is Chris Romines. I am a IT guy on the outside. On the inside, I built that dude.
You may have seen him on Duck Dynasty as well. Sorry.
Yeah, my name is Mike McMaster. I built R2-D2, a walking C-3PO suit, and most recently a Wally. And believe it or not, I'm a citrus farmer by trade.
Hi everyone, my name is William Miyamoto. This is my droid right here. I've got 3 more in the works at home, or actually 1 downstairs and 2 at home. I'm a stay-at-home dad currently, but before that I did some work in props.
Hi, my name is Mike Senna. I built an R2-D2. I guess I have 2 R2-D2s, and also I built a Wally. My profession is in the programming area. I program biometric systems for law enforcement.
The crowd got really nervous.
See the 2 guys in the back? They're not here for us.
And so what I do for a living is I'm an embedded software engineer, so the software I work on goes in things like traffic light controllers, the Mars rovers, medical equipment, stuff like that. It's a really fun job. I've actually built 2 R2s myself. The first one's over here, and then the next one I'm going to bring either tomorrow or Sunday. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the club and how it works. So it was founded back in 1999 by a club member named Dave Everett, and he established a Yahoo users group that was mainly dedicated to sharing information and things like blueprints. So after many years, the club established a nice, accurate set of blueprints, and the club has evolved on the internet. So we now have thousands of members worldwide. How many are actively building at any one moment? It's hard to say, but definitely hundreds. And we have like over a dozen droids today at our booth. Our booth, by the way, is booth 1189. So you'll find the Wallies there as well as our R2 units. And
come for the R2, don't come for the wall.
Yeah. The club actually has a second website now called astromech.net, and if you visit that website, you'll get all sorts of resources, including frequently asked questions and answers, links to the blueprints, forums that help you resolve build problems, and also some of the club members will do what are known as part runs, where the parts are manufactured. If you need a certain part in aluminum, usually one of the guys every once in a while will go ahead and get it made at a machine shop. They're not cheap, but if you want something in aluminum and you're not able to do it yourself, then that's one of the resources. But actually, as we'll talk about during our panel, a lot of us make our own parts ourselves from scratch. So the club membership is free. It's just a hobbyist club. It will impoverish you, but not for joining. It will cost a lot to build these, depending on what you make them out of. And the blueprints are free. All the resources are free. And the things we do with the R2s is we bring them to conventions like WonderCon, and we do a lot of charitable appearances. So we'll do children's hospital visits. We'll do things for Make-A-Wish or American Cancer Society or City of Hope. If you do have a charitable organization similar to that, then let us know and maybe we can make something work. And there's a lot of us all over the world, but Southern California may be the most populous as far as R2 builders. Mike, how many R2LA members show up these days?
Oh man, I think the last R2LA we had upwards between 80 and 90 people show up.
Yeah.
I have a gathering once a year in my house for the local R2 builders. It's gone on 11 years now, And yeah, the last one reached about 90 people, and we had about 25 built droids running around in the backyard.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's usually streamed online at r2la.com.
Fun stuff. But it's like a unique place in the world where you see, 24 droids in somebody's backyard. So speaking of 24 droids, I mentioned that there's a lot of us building. The picture I'm about to show you on the screen was taken back in 2006, I believe, and the club has only grown. So this is from Celebration 5 in Orlando, Florida. And you can see they're not all just the blue and white R2-D2. You got pretty much, that almost looks like a toy collection. One of the funny things about this picture, William, you might be able to speak to this, in the very front row, there's a little human being in one of those.
That's this one right here.
That's the droid, and who's in there?
Usually my daughter rides around in it. She'll be here tomorrow.
Signing autographs.
And the horrible part is, when she did that R2, she sits there and does a princess wave at everybody. It's disgusting. When you come down, there's two things that kill us when we're down on the floor. One is the Wallies. That's why they're probably going to burn up at some point today. And then his little girl in the R2 because nobody looks at us. They're all looking at the little pretty princess in her princess dress, waving. Oh, she got disgusting.
Just jealous.
And it should be noted, this was Star Wars Celebration 5 in Orlando, Florida. A year from now, Star Wars Celebration 7 will be here in this convention center, and we will probably have 80, maybe 100 plus droids here in this convention center.
Yeah, we are totally looking forward to that. Another funny thing about this picture, about 3 rows down from the top on the very right, you'll see a droid that looks like a Lego, and somebody actually built a full-size Lego R2. The Lego booth was really happy about that.
And you can tell a lot of people, building R2-D2 in the early days, that was the big thing, but after a while, everybody has an R2-D2. So quickly, people started doing other variants, things you've seen in the movie over the years, as well as mashups. I don't know if it's in this picture, but the last Celebration 6, we had one that was an Iron Man R2-D2. And it
actually
insane.
had that light.
Yeah, it had the chest line, had the arc reactor in a little bit. It was really pretty neat.
John Carver used it as a Twitter and as a Facebook thing when he posted me that R2.
So just a quick little look at materials and tools, and then we're going to go more freeform with questions, answers, and witty comments from the panel. So materials, a lot of the Southern California guys, Mike Santa down at the end there, was the first to build a droid in this area, and a lot of us have used his model of how we're going to build ours. And so wood is a primary material that we use. The frames are typically made of wood, the legs are usually made of wood, other parts of the droid, there's a little part underneath called the skirt that has a lot of wood in there. Also, materials like resin. Do you guys have that stuff over there, like Michael McMaster? That's the eye that goes on R2. So we can mold those and replicate them out of resin. The wood Chris Romines is using, it's upside down, Chris. Chris bought most of his parts. So,
What happens when you make the video?
Panel turned ugly quick.
yeah, I told you we would have witty comments.
Yeah, I went there.
That's the blue part on my droid on the shoulder, for example. So that's made out of poplar wood. And then there's usually some metal involved, like obviously the domes that you see mostly here are aluminum, although, William, you got a different one, right? What's that made out of?
Fiberglass.
Right, so there's styrene, there's fiberglass, and obviously aluminum is the most expensive material, unless you make it out of gold or something. The tools we use that are indispensable for, especially when you're using wood, are things like saws, miter saws, table saws, band saws, drill press is really useful, and any other kinds of tools. Mike and William and Michael, do you guys have any more to add about
Well,
that?
the first droid I built, all I had was a table saw and a chop saw. And I didn't have a drill press. I borrowed a drill press. And I also had a router. Those were the only 3 tools that I really had. That's all I had.
Anybody else?
Mike's talking about wood, but there is no one way to build an R2. You can make it out of wood, you can make it out of paper, you can make it out of cardboard, you can make it out of metal. So if you can work with those materials, that'll help you build your own R2.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Whatever you're comfortable with, you can probably use to build an R2.
And before you start building, you should really know what you're going to want to do with it. If you want to stick it in a corner and plug it into the wall and turn on the lights, you'll probably go a little cheaper. But if you plan on doing conventions, you don't really want a all aluminum droid because they don't move fast. And you hit a kid with one of those, it's going to be like a crime scene out there. So most of us, we use the lighter material so we can use the motor so we can get more speed, more torque. And the heavier droids, they're pretty and all, but they're really tough to get in the right end.
And we have a builder out there, yeah, who's giving us some dirty looks right now. It's a 250-pound droid.
Ed and Dan in the center, they're members of our club, as are a few of the other guys. So we expect some help.
Yeah, but know what you're going to do with it before you build it. Just don't go, I'm going to build one, and then have no idea what you're going to do. And research it and pick the right materials and
figure your budget out.
Figure your budget. That's important. And steal ideas.
Yeah, rather than tell you how much they cost, we'll wait till you guys ask. There's some frequently asked questions and answers, but it's best left.
Right, only yours.
So guys, before I go on to general Q&A, did you have anything else you wanted to add or mention that I didn't bring up yet?
This is how to build your own R2-D2. If you know nothing about building, that's okay. If you have a strong desire to build an R2-D2, you can. We're an online club, we have a forum, and there's lots and lots of help.
Lots of local people. I talked with my director with my controller, my speed controller, and I went over to Mike's house, and within 15 minutes, we were doing left and left turns. So, and it was just a misunderstanding on my part how the thing works. So he straightened me out and boom, it was working. So the knowledge is out here to get it done. And it's not just here. We got guys all over, like I said, all over the world to do this. So the resources are here if you want to do it.
In my case, it was really a matter of willpower and not giving up. I mean, I never was going to give up, but there were days, like that resin eye that's in front of Michael. I remember spending 3 nights in a row sanding the back of that against the dome to get the right profile so that it would, sit on the dome nice and flush. And those 3 nights, I was like thinking that's not too fun. But you just tough it out, and eventually 2 years later. Okay, so why don't we open it up for questions first, and we'll kind of go back and forth with ideas and things, but yeah, you. Let's go down the line.
Well, let's see, I had a speed build because I was getting ready for Celebration 4 in LA, and I heard it about 7,000 in mine. I got to do another 1,000. I got to change the speed up like my motors blow up because I can't buy my motors anymore. So it's probably going to be about the time I'll go.
Yeah, mine was wood frame. I skinned it with plastic. The only major parts I bought, a few aluminum parts. The electronics I had on hand from an old radio-controlled airplane that I gutted, so I probably have about 2,500 in mine. But I do know there's some builders who have made all styrene droids, and there's one, he's only spent about $500. It's a static droid. So you can go the low end if you just want a static droid sitting in the back of your house somewhere.
Michael, for those who don't know what styrene looks like, it looks like you got a piece of styrene in front
Yeah,
of you.
it comes as a plastic sheet. It's a very flexible material, easy to cut. You can cut it with a razor knife, and you can cut it and shape it. I used it to wrap around the wood frame on mine for the skins. The clubs also offer aluminum laser cut skins, aluminum laser cut domes. The level of sophistication over the years, it's just staggering what parts are made. The holo projectors now, it was originally a found part when the first 5 droids were made way back in the 70s.
Found prop?
Yeah, the prop for Star Wars, the original Star Wars. It is from an overhead reading lamp in a Vickers Viscount airliner because they were next to an airport, so it was a found part. But since then, the club, they're very rare, they're hard to find, they're expensive. So now the club is reproducing those as machined aluminum parts as well. So
Yeah, they got what, $25 a piece, and you get resin ones for $15. Resin.
Or make them out of a scope cap for free.
yeah.
A ballpark figure, if you want to build a droid, say like $5,000. But think of this like an automobile. Do you want an economy box, just kind of bare bones, or do you want a luxury car with all the bells and whistles? So you want a lot of stuff, high-end materials like aluminum or metal, then it's going to get really expensive. But ballpark, maybe around $5,000. It varies, like you said. One builder can probably do it for like $500. I built this one right here, RC, light, sound, under 600.
Tell them what it's made of. What's your body made of?
This is a posh of parts: fiberglass, wood, metal, cardboard, resin.
Your body what?
A cardboard sonotube for concrete cylinders.
Mine costs about $5,000. Quarter of that's probably in the electronics package I put in there. I always tell people if they want to drive their droid around in public, eventually they either do it in front of people or have people around them. And to me, if you're going to build a $4,000 droid, you want to have an electronics package that you're going to be able to use and have reliably control it without running over people. So I always tell them, the last part of it is like, well, what do I do with it now? I have to put in the electronics. I found this one on this transmitter on eBay for $50. And I kind of say, no, let's not do that. So I try to steer them towards a well-known brand like Futaba or Airtronics, or what's the other? Spectrum, that's correct. But around 5,000.
So speaking of electronics, some of the essential electronics that goes in a droid, of course, your remote control your transmitter. So this is mine. And I've disabled the droid's feet, so he can't drive off the cart, but you know, I can still be remote controlled. But what's in there is something called a speed controller for the feet, and the speed controller is what allows me to use one stick to control both feet, and it mixes the signals so that the feet can go, you know, if you're trying to turn left or right, it will turn one foot in one direction and the other. So, like Mike Senna said, you know, high-end equipment will be very reliable and it'll work well. And in my case, I also spent about $5,000 mainly because I copied Mike.
Yeah, you say, why is mine 8 and why is this 5? Because I bought both of them. Because I don't need aluminum because I was going to paint it. So that was the cost I didn't need. And I have a light, so I can't sit in my balcony and cut things out of wood to make this. So I can go online and buy this for $50 times 2 and, you know, slap everything together. Yeah, so and we got guys that are about $25,000 in for them. But when you open them up, they look like a NASA control center. And it's disgusting how much, and these are electrical engineers, and so they got these, I mean, it makes mine look like a caveman droid.
Well, they're one step away from being actual robots. I mean, they are computer programmed. The center foot drops down and go from 2-leg to 3-leg and back again. Just incredible.
At the last R2-D2, we had a guy, the French guy, Mark, M-A-R-C probably, because he was French. But he had created a software package for Apple that controlled all the servos in his zone. And he could pattern, he had patterns, he could hit one button on his iPhone, which is the tap, I don't know, all they bring is up, and Paul has an iPhone there too. He hit one button and it looked like a circus. I mean, it was a dance.
The panels opening and closing and things popping out, and
I just turned around and my head was disgusted.
this is a great time. I mean, for people that, I don't know if anybody in here is a programming enthusiast, but if you've heard of the Arduino system, that's a really popular system right now. And guys are putting them in their droids and doing some, like Chris just said, opening and closing of panels and gadgets. So it's kind of neat.
And it was a smugness that was doing it. You'd be like, oh, watch this. And it would be like,
The nice thing is he makes it available to everybody in the club, so that you can download his app from the Apple App Store to control the R2. So it's a very small audience, but it's available, and then he makes his designs available, and even sells, the parts. So a lot of the club members are doing that kind of thing. Yes.
What was the average build time? All weekend, and some not at all.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, much less how many hours I put into this R2.
Yeah.
The question was average build time, by the way, in case you didn't catch that.
Yeah, I spent about 2.5 years working on it, but that's just nights and weekends and lunch breaks, so I never really logged the time, but there's hundreds of man hours easily.
I think the ballpark average is about 2 years.
Yeah. Tell them how long you've been building your
This one took me under 6 months.
No, the other one.
And I have 2 at home that I'm going on like 10 years.
Oh, mine took about a year to build. The problem was I didn't know anybody out here. I didn't know anybody in the community that was building R2s at the time. So when I went online, it looked like everybody was building super fast because they would brag about what they were doing, but they actually weren't doing anything. So I tried to keep up with them. And the result is I finished mine in like 11 months.
He's an overachiever.
And for this guy right here, I took a year, 10 months, and 17 days. And, that's all, on the weekends and after work. It's certainly not something we get a chance to do all the time.
We have some professional guys that they're doing in like 2 months, but for the most part, it's the wait time is parts. We don't have a store that you can go to and say, "Ooh, I need a dome, I need legs, I need skins, I need this." Hit the checkout now button and have all our stuff shipped out to you. Our builders on the forums, they go through a process to sell stuff. And we've got them out to make sure that they're not thieves. And dome guy will come and say, "I'm building 15 domes, who wants one?" And they'll take your money, they'll build your dome, and probably 4 to 6 weeks later, you'll get a dome in the mail. So there's a lot of wait time, but once you get it, there's hours and hours and hours of manipulating it to get it to do what you want.
I would scale that 4 to 6 weeks to be months.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's another motivation to build your own parts if you can, because then you're not dependent on somebody else.
Yeah, but there is no deadline. It's a hobby, so you just do work on it when you want to.
Yes, question?
Do you guys have to get like permission from Lucas to
Great question. The question is, what about copyrights and things like that from Lucasfilm and Disney? I'll let Senna describe that first, and you guys can talk more about it too. That's why the police are in the back.
Incidentally, I'm the head workflow programmer. Policeman back there. Pay attention. I'm the head workflow programmer for your new Orange County system that's going to be coming out for the Orange County crime lab.
Overachiever.
He's buttering up back there.
Putting up, just in case they're waiting there for you. What's the question?
Intellectual property with Lucasfilm and Disney.
Lucasfilm's generally kind of I guess, loose with their characters running around. With the 501st, you can see a lot of stormtroopers running around, a lot of Darth Vaders and all that stuff. As long as you don't come out on stage and start performing with, major professional gigs where they know that you're saying you're representing them, that's the kind of thing they look for. But otherwise, you can drive around at cons and things like that. You want to avoid parties, advertising in newspapers for parties and things like that.
We have a good understanding actually with Lucasfilm. They know about us, they know about the 501st, we do charity work. We build these droids in costumes for ourselves, and the understanding is we will not build them to sell to other people. So if any of you want us, come up to us and say, how much would you charge me to build a droid? We can't do that. That's the understanding. Because there are copyrights and licenses, companies that do have those that produce them for sale.
Trust me, if your check's big enough, we'll work something out. Just saying.
Talk to Chris in the back parking lot after 5.
Wait.
I'm going to go ahead and ask a question that may or may not have come up anyway, and that is, along those lines, have we ever done official work for Lucasfilm since we have fairly realistic looking droids? And again, I'll go down the line because I kind of know the answer for every one of us. Chris, why don't you start and work our way down?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ed. I've done a couple things with the coolness of Lucasfilm's approval. I was in the movie Fanboys. Oh, I wasn't, he was. I know 4 of you at least saw that. He did George Lucas's office after they break in there, and you got the big Boba Fett in the side, little black thing with Mike section.
Go right out and rent it.
And then I just did a TV show with Christian Slater and Megan Leahy and Breaking In, which you guys will never, ever see unless you buy it on Amazon. Because they canceled the show a week ago. But it's still up.
But if you do see that show, my R2 is in that show also. And not Eric.
Screen used to lose.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of commercial work, some licensees, Pepsi Bottling Company back when the new trilogy came out. I did some work through Lucasfilm and other little commercial work. Nothing high profile like these guys here, but
Yeah, breaking in, and then I did a couple of things with the 501st, a couple of commercials and stuff with my costumes.
I think the first thing I did with Lucasfilm was the Rose Parade. They wanted, they put my R2 on the Rose Parade float for,
It's in the lower left there.
I think that was in 2007. I guess the other big things was did a Verizon commercial shoot with them, which
That's in the center-ish.
what? But I really thought when I came to realize how much they trusted me was when they asked me to do a Bloomberg shoot with Bloomberg magazine when Lucasfilm got bought by Disney. When I went to that magazine shoot, Bob Iger, the head of Disney, was there, plus Kathleen Kennedy, the head of Lucasfilm, and Mickey Mouse, and also my R2. So they trusted me with the heads and the icons of the company. And this is the magazine that ended up being released.
It's not a fake. That is R2.
So I thought that was
By the way, we'll be auctioning off his autograph later.
We have something that the club will be doing here. That you guys will all probably see because he's new Star Wars in a couple of years. Want to tell me about that?
It may have come up anyway, but yeah, I'll mention it. And that is two of our club members in the UK were at a convention very similar to this, and Kathleen Kennedy, who took over for George Lucas at Lucasfilm, was at this convention in Europe, Celebration in Europe too. And she met with the R2 builders, like, you know, we have our booth, they have theirs, and they jokingly said, well, if you need any help for the next movies, let us know. Well, guess what? A few months later, they got a call or an email or something, and now Lee Cowersey and Oliver Steeples, who are two of our club members in the UK, are the official R2 crew for the movies. So, unfortunately, we don't know if you can't tell us anything. Obviously, there's huge non-disclosure. They've signed away their lives, but I thought it was pretty cool that, you know, guys like us that were just club members, but doing a good job on their droids, got their attention.
I did hear one thing though. I heard Lucas was throwing a buttload of money at him to work on the drivetrain. So it took over. And when that's a good thing to hear. Here's a buttload of money, make your drivetrain work. All right, cool.
And not to be left out, I've done a few high-profile things myself. I've done an ESPN commercial, which is in the lower right there. I did something for Microsoft, and I also did, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a show called Cupcake Wars, but it's on Food Network. So my droid was on their Star Wars episode a couple seasons ago. And all of these are approved by Lucasfilm, so like William and the others said, they know us, we know them. We get their approval before they do it. Often they'll come to us and say, hey, are you available? And so that's how that works. So a very long question to the intellectual property. Also, Mike's kind of now a good time to also show that Verizon, the thing that makes your droid different.
it works. These things sound like a lot of fun, like, hey, Verizon calls you, or hey, Lucasfilm calls you, says, well, we need this power, or the life form scanner to pop up in the dome and wave around and go back in the dome. You think you can do this for Verizon? And I said, well, sure, what's my timeline? And they say 3 weeks. So, lucky I had Christmas vacation off. I spent a total 3 weeks working feverishly on the site, trying to get it out. And I managed to do that, and I got it out in 3 weeks. But so now I think my droid is the only one currently that has a very well working light bar stand.
As seen on TV.
There's a lot of programming involved in getting the timing correct and everything working properly and having that thing fit right back into the 5 panels. But it was a really pressure deal. But then you're on the set and you have to, since it was one of the things that was in every shoot, it had to work 120 times in a row on cue. If it stopped any time during the day, I put 40 people on hold. So it was very, very stressful for 12 hours.
When you watch a commercial, it's in there for less than like 0.3 seconds. Okay.
But I made it through without a failure.
Okay, a question there, yeah.
You guys built these droids in different sizes,
Do we build the droids in different sizes?
and also what determined the original size?
And what determined Kenny Baker's height? What determined the original size of the droid? And they built in different sizes.
Probably some dude Lucas back in 76, 77 said it used to be this tall. And we're just copying what they did. So we've had guys go to Lucas Ranch and with rulers and tape measures, and we've got these R2s are as accurate as the movie R2s. Because we've actually been to the ranch with the micrometers and what is it, tool?
Calipers.
Thank you.
Digital calibers.
Yeah, all that stuff. So if the one in the movie is that.
Yeah, we took measurements off the real one, and we got access to the real one.
And the sounds that you hear us play, they're from Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm gave us the sounds for our show. So everything, when you see that thing going, walking and doing its thing, it's just like the movie version, better. Because we talked to the guys at the cons that worked at Lucasfilm and built these things, they're like, back in 77, the electronic packages were so huge, they'd have to have 3 R2s to do 3 different things. Now we got one R2 that does 20 things. And they're just telling me to drive well, like, where the hell were you guys 30 years ago?
We were 10 years old.
But the technology has advanced to where what you're seeing here is exactly what you're seeing. You guys got the paint down, they got the colors down. This is as accurate as you're going to get.
Yeah, we were fortunate in the early days of the R2 Builders Club that several people that joined just so happened that they worked for Lucasfilm and they worked with the droids and they were willing to share some of the information that they had in the early days, which was really beneficial to the club. And then over time, like Chris has said, we've been able to visit Skywalker Ranch and take measurements. We've seen the real R2-D2. One of them was at a convention in Indianapolis, Star Wars Celebration 3, and the minute the lights went out at the end of the day, there were about 30 builders who take pictures on the droid. So they've been very well documented, and as Chris said, they're one-to-one identical scale. And as far as the scale originally, drawings that we've seen, once they chose Kenny Baker, they did measure Kenny Baker.
Who's Kenny Baker?
Kenny Baker was the gentleman who stood inside the droid, the 2-legged droid that you see in all the films. When you see it in 2-leg mode, it's looking around and dancing around. That's a small person inside of it.
And it looks like it's got those vent covers, like from your washer, your heater. You've got those heater vent covers. That's Kenny's.
In the feed area.
And then there was a 3-leg mode that was driving, was remote controlled, or in the early films, most of the scenes was being towed by a cable because the RC was not very reliable.
Also, to answer the question about different sizes of R2s, there are a couple of builders that have built half-size R2s, but what makes that difficult is the standard parts then now need to be scaled down or up. And so the guys that are producing parts for the club, they're not going to produce a custom-sized part, so now that person is really on their own to produce their own parts. Now, with the advent of 3D printers and things like that, it's not as daunting, but it's still more that you have to deal with yourself. So yeah, there are some other sizes, and I think the original size is a mixture of practical things, and also Ralph McQuarrie, who was the original illustrator for Star Wars, I think kind of gave a general idea of R2's size compared to C-3PO.
Thank you.
Any other comments on that before we go on? Okay, next question, yes.
R2 does all kinds of things in the movie. How many of them have you guys been able to work with?
Stuff that R2 does in the movies. Actually, I'm going to hijack this one briefly. So you know when he puts out the fire in the Millennium Falcon? This is, for me to try this in front of a huge audience when it only works about half the time is a bad idea, but I'll try it.
Take happy thoughts.
That's the one and only gadget slash trick that my R2 can do. But between what Mike just showed you and what the other guys have done, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the other things like periscopes and the CPU arm that comes out of the body and all those things.
Well, your arm's opening too, right?
Yeah, his arm opens. I'm like Vic, I got one thing, I'm a one-trick pony. But
He uses that trick a
use
lot.
that for an account.
Keep your kids' faces away from
If you're a
Chris's
child
droid.
and you're standing in front of my R2, game on. If you ignore me and you're bent down talking to someone, could be game on. My guy's jerks, and I don't know what makes him like that.
Death Star droid.
My guy's what's called an astromech. He's not an astromech, he's an Imperial service droid. He could blow it up on the second decimal, so I think he has an attitude. So if you see the black one, the same.
Good morning.
My one-trick pony does work. Better kid.
What is that stuff? It's Raid. No, I'm kidding. You know, like the keyboard duster stuff that you can buy at Office Depot or Staples. Except it's not really that because that stuff has a bitter engine in it that's like tear gas. So instead, you can order some without bitters online. In my case, from uline.com.
Mine's just a stroller for my kid.
More functional.
No, mine's just got the arms and the mister and the life form scanner that pops out.
But Ed Perello, our resident heckler there, I wish I could put up on, I don't have a picture, so I don't have a picture. If you send it to my iPhone, I'll hold it up. But at any rate, Ed, why don't you go through some of the, just go through some of these. Anything that's ever been seen in the movies that's in R2 is in Ed Perello's droid. And
He's got
it's
tasers.
ridiculous. Every panel opens, every gadget is available.
And that's why it doesn't move. It weighs 400
Does it
pounds. It looks good when you get it to where you got it to go, but it takes 10 of us to get it there. Because he burns the motor. He turns it on, goes forward, motor's burning.
And how many gadgets is that, do you know? 13 gadgets and Ed's droid, panels open, and like I say, I don't think there's a panel that doesn't have something. No, because it weighs too much for him to get
You
it.
can't get enough guys to help him pick it up. So.
Yeah, I need you guys to come over.
Does anyone have a lightsaber?
Yes.
Yes, of course Ed does, right? So, this is an open invitation to visit Ed at his house.
Yeah.
He just lives down the street.
Yeah, the big thing is the holograph. Everybody wants to see the whole Princess Leia holograph, and everybody for years has been like, oh, it can't be done. Guess what? They're doing it. It's not really a hologram. Who was it? Chris Hughes, I think it was. He put, the little clear toy that you can buy. He put that out like on a pole with a little piece of string on it. But that
Power antenna.
yeah, power antenna, so it would project it out, and there would be a little.
It just dangled.
Because guys, I got it working, it's not working, you gotta check this out. And they're like, okay, let's see this hologram.
For some reason, folks didn't buy that. But what they're doing now is they're using a smoke system to shoot smoke out underneath R2, and then using a real-life projector and projecting an image into the smoke. It's better than the download toy. But yeah, they're getting there. Projectors are coming. I don't know whether you're going to see a holographic play of however you want, but it still looks cool.
Yeah, but everything that you see R2 do in the movies, our droids can probably do, minus the hologram and flying.
You can do the flying.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, and that's another one trick pony thing. You get that going, you're probably not gonna land all right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can get it to fly. Just the landing will be the hard part.
Because one of your legs are gonna catch on fire.
Okay, next question.
What, of all of you who are working on R2, what's one thing you wish you know at the start of the season that's
Great question. What do you wish you knew, at the end of the journey that would have helped?
That doesn't have to do with these jerks at these 3 times.
Well, what's funny is some of the electronics, things advance so quickly. I mean, I was using a 30-year-old Futaba radio, and by the time I finished, there are guys using iPads and Bluetooth and, all that. So, a lot of the technology has advanced so quickly that there's not a whole lot you can do about that except for build another droid, which I'm doing.
I'm like, I got a caveman droid. I'm lucky mine works. I go forward, it goes backwards, it turns left and right. Yeah. But now, like you said, you got all these guys doing one puck on your iPad. You're doing, get off the wall.
I can't think of anything to answer that question with.
I think I would have just started sooner.
And what's funny is, I never planned on building one of these things. We had a prop party for, I don't know if you guys heard the RPF, the Replica Prop Forum. Every couple of years we have a big prop party, and Mike was driving his R2 out. We finished the party. Mike was driving out to the parking lot. We were at, where were we? It was Dave and Buster in Irvine. And I'm just sitting there talking to somebody. Out of the corner of my eye, I see this little girl. She had to be 6 or 7 years old, and she had this peach top on, pink, whatever, and these green shorts, and she just came running like she was doing a mile, Carl Lewis, and she came running, ran right up to R2 and started hugging R2. And then the funny part was, she looked at her mom and went into devil mode and said, "Mom, take a picture." And she was yelling at her mom. Meanwhile, Mom's trying to get her out of the car, and she's got this desperate hug on it. I'm like, I probably should. So,
I'm gonna answer that question in a different way. And that is, I actually picked up skills that I'm glad this hobby taught me. So woodworking and electronics were 2 skills that I wasn't particularly strong in, and I developed. So in that respect, I'm glad that this project has taught me those things and taught me more about materials. I didn't even know much about aluminum versus steel, like one you use for building and one you don't. The other thing that I learned is that I think I speak for all of us, that we all grew up watching these movies and never imagined in a million years that we would have our own R2-D2s, let alone represent Lucasfilm sometime on television. And so that's kind of like an unbelievable opportunity we've all had. So those are some of the things I didn't know and coming up when I started the project, but boy, looking back, I'm really glad that this happened.
Yeah, there's some nice perks to it.
Yes, questions?
Do you have any recommendations for books for you for learning like the electronic side of it?
Good question. I don't know if you
Google.com. Just keep plugging stuff in until it blows up. And then go backwards.
Have you seen the magic blue smoke?
Oh,
It's too late.
Yeah, we had one of our builders today. He
already had one
board.
casualty today.
His RC's dead because he plugged it in wrong in the parking lot because he couldn't see. Boom.
Positive to positive and negative to negative. What idiot thought of that?
There really are a lot of tutorials. Victor has a blog that so many new R2 builders have followed over the years, where he documents everything, every aspect of this droid, the good, the bad, everything in
Including
between.
this panel.
And so it's really nice to see, for somebody new, they can look at it and say, oh, okay, well, this is something I want to do or something I don't want to do. And so the group's really encouraging, whether you want to learn electronics or, woodworking, whatever, there's certainly a lot of resources that the club provides. So.
And you got all of them. You got a problem in the other group.
Call Chris. I'll give you his number later.
Only more like I do these guys. Yeah, we have meetings, we have parties. When you have a problem, you say, hey, my dry cleaner's not working. You say, let's go to Mike's house. And
Yeah, because Michael Senna has build days.
Yep.
Everybody's invited, by the way,
Yep.
later.
Well,
Yeah, his wife's in the back. Wave to everybody. There you go. Having a supportive spouse is so key to building a droid.
I'm one of the few builders that actually has a wife.
I
That's not true. Anyway, I have these build days.
For now, yeah.
I have these build days about once a quarter where if somebody's struggling with stuff, where they just want to come over to work out some electronics or whatever they need to do, they'll come over. And really, the electronics packages that are in these R2s are fairly simple. Once you get the explanation and concept of how it works, it's just a matter of hooking one component to another component.
I know we're really short on time, so I'm going to try to take another question or two, but before I forget, of course, astromech.net is a primary resource, and also we have pamphlets for our cult. If you're interested, we have a bunch at the booth, but I also brought a few up here, so it tells you about astromech.net and how to find the website and all that stuff.
Yes, join us.
Yeah, one last question.
We're in Hall C, all the way in the back.
I'll see booth 1189.
Don't read the law.
Wally's more popular. I mean, let me rephrase that. Everyone loves him.
Yeah, Michael and Mike, well, there's a scratch build on them, but go for it.
Yeah, currently there's no parts available for Wally, so it's a complete scratch build. And it's probably not something I would recommend as a first build. Probably an R2 would be better, and then going into the
Okay, that was nice and succinct, but we are out of time. So thank you very much for coming to our panel.